Rossville are progressive. They've got community centers now. I had a grandson that wanted to have a wedding party. No place in St. Marys for it. He had to go to Rossville. Everybody had to drive to Rossville. I think that the City Commission has an obligation to, as mentioned before, to provide for the citizens of the community. There was mentioned before about the obligation to provide the recreation. I think the money's there. I'm surprised that people didn't come and protest the raise in sewer rates. That was like $10 a month. That's $120. I know our taxes won't go up that much for this. When I was on the City Commission, we also had a sales tax that came in. It was bringing about $300,000 a year, and we never used that money for anything. I don't know if they still have or not, but there's money there, and there wouldn't be a raise in taxes. It would be tax money, but it wouldn't be there. I would like to ask the City Commission to remember that to be progressive, you got to move forward, and we're going to lose an opportunity if we don't provide a community center for St. Marys. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Hi, my name is John Fiedler, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I also want to thank you guys for diligently working through this. I know it hasn't been any fun for you. I think you've heard me enough to know that I'm in favor of it and kind of what my opinions are. What I'd like to say to the crowd is I hear people get up here and say, I represent a group. I think what's important is who's committed to coming out and telling you that they want it. I think Mr. Cabler at the last meeting mentioned that a lot of people said they didn't want it. I think there's a lot here that do want it, and I challenge them all to just get up here and say opposed or in favor. You don't have to have a long speech. I think the commission wants to know what you think so they can vote what the town or the community is in favor of. So thank you for your time and commitment. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andy Perry. As a lifelong resident of St. Marys and a taxpayer, I would like to let you know that I am for this. I have thought long and hard about it. As a business owner in the community, I am also for it. I have pledged money for that purpose. I think it is an asset to the city. I think it helps the infrastructure of the community, which can only help the businesses, whether they're manufacturer or retail. As a businessman, I look at the dollars that are being spent and the return that is being reaped, and as Mr. Redler explained, I think those numbers are very favorable. Whether you vote for it or vote it down, you have to admit it's the best deal that probably could be put together. These guys tried very hard. The last thing I want to mention is the estimate on the actual building and the remodeling that has to take place. There was a lot of work done in it. Some of the guys involved, Bill Brown, Ray Thurlow, Wayne Reiners, myself, have been in this business a very long time. I feel very confident that those numbers are very accurate. I think there was some, I think there was some overestimating just to be safe so that we don't have surprises. So I think you should be very confident in those numbers, and I thank you for your time.
My name is Steve Ditton, and I'm also a lifelong resident here in town. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, so I might jumble around here a little bit. The only objections I've really heard tonight is about tax dollars being spent. And I don't know if that's just because this is such a public event that's going on, but I'm also on the local school board. And here 2 months ago, we raised the mill levy, and not one person, not one, showed up to object to it. So I don't understand if that's the only concern, what the problem is. If that was the concern, they should have been at that meeting too. It's published in the St. Marys paper. If you're also worried about tax dollars, I think the community needs to think about, with that being in such a good location downtown by all the downtown businesses, sometime the commission has to step forward and do things to support the downtown businesses. And the tax dollars you're going to lose, if you lose some of those downtown businesses, is going to increase everybody else's tax dollars in their households, because they're going to have to make up for the tax revenue you lost from sales downtown. So if that's the only concern, you need to weigh both sides of that. And that's all I have.
I'm Marge Gary. I've lived in this community for 84 plus years. I am for fixing up the armory. Right now I live across the street from it. I didn't prepare any kind of speech because I didn't know I was going to be given a chance to talk. but I have always used that place across the street as my storm shelter. I have no finished basement, and it's the only place I have to go if there's a tornado warning. And I am very concerned if we don't fix that up and keep it as a public building. Thank you very much.
I'm Julie Gomez, and I really don't have anything extremely prepared either. But I do want to mention, one of the reasons that I'm involved with Friends of the Park is because St. Mary's has things that other towns cannot buy. We have character. Our park is rich in character. There are buildings there that people can't just go and build. There's no history behind what they're going to go build. The Armory has character, which other communities would just love to have. One of the other reasons that I want to improve our park is because I take my kids, stick them in the car, and I drive to Walnego because their park is so awesome. And because we go to the pool there. And then I go and I spend my money at their grocery store and at their dollar store. And we stop at Sonic and get a slush. I know lots of my friends do this as well. And I think that we owe it to St. Mary's to move forward and to make it a destination so that people from Walnego are going to say, let's head on over to St. Mary's because they have a great park, they have a great place to have events. I think it would be a wonderful thing, and I wholeheartedly support it. Although I don't have huge, deep pockets that I can give a contribution other than my tax dollars, I would more than happily donate my time because I am a full believer in community service. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Hello, my name is Louise Averkamp. I know I've already voiced my opinion several times here on what I think the Chamber Rec's request and what I think of it, that you give them money for their community center. I strongly believe that if there is enough desire for and belief in the idea that a community center is good for St. Mary's, that it can and will be done. Let me tell you what Bellevue, population of 256 people, did recently. This tiny community to our west raised $160,000 and donated labor, materials, equipment, and built a lovely firehouse and community center. If a town that size can raise that much money, what can a town of our size of 2,800 do? Surely the $125,000 that the Chamber wants can be raised through volunteer effort, hard work, and donations. The Chamber Rec Group has expressed a lack of faith in being able to raise this money on their own. They refused to consider a dollar lease on the building, even though at one point they admitted the building could be leased for, I think, about $20,000 a year. And they refused to take complete responsibility for running it and covering the expenses. Perhaps if you commissioners decide that St. Mary's needs a community center, you should turn the responsibility of it over to a group who has more confidence in it and who is determined not to make this community center a financial drain on the city from here on out. Was that my bill?
No.
Sorry. Aside from the tax issue, how can we support a community center that will take away business from existing businesses and charitable organizations that are already operating in St. Mary's? Many business owners have invested and taken financial risk of either buying or renting storefronts in St. Mary's. Again, I ask you, how does it help existing businesses when we give their competitors a taxpayer subsidized place to lease? No satisfactory answer has ever been given to the Chamber to this crucial question, other than a vague hope that people from out of town will flock in and spend lots of money on vending machines and sandwiches. I think that is unrealistic. But even if it were true, how does a community center help non-retail business or the churches that will lose reception hall rental fees? No one has answered that yet. This is just one of many unanswered questions. At the work session last week, many questions were answered vaguely with, I don't know, or we can work out the details later, or I'm sure it can be done. Will you commissioners be reacting responsibly if you vote to give money without knowing exactly what the cost to the city will be from this point forward? Without knowing who will be responsible for what? Without knowing if contractually all this can be worked out? Without knowing the city's liability during and after this project? This is not just about $125,000. This will cost the city much, much more. Please table this whole discussion until all your concerns can be addressed. We need to seriously study the economic impact and not just rely on imaginary feel-good benefits. Some of you who have come before the City Commission asking for money do not live in St. Marys or own property here, and you on the Commission do not represent them.
Thank you, Louise. Please hold your applause.
Hi, I'm Laura Pearl, and I'm a member of the community, and I have the business MJ's Coffee Uptown, and I'm in support of the community center, and I'd like to clarify a point that this isn't the Chamber of Commerce's community center. This is the citizens of St. Mary's Community Center and everyone involved. And I just commend the people that have done all the work to come up with real statistics. And, you know, we could be more emotional, I think, but it's true. It's a good thing for St. Mary's, and the glass is 2/3 full. You already have 2/3. You only need 1/3 to contribute, and it's a small amount over a period of 3 years. And I think that most of us should be more grateful to these folks that have put the dollars together and contributed the money to be able to make this a reality. And as a business owner uptown, I really appreciate more business, and the more people we bring to St. Mary's, the better, because a lot of us businesses uptown are struggling and we need more traffic. So I just encourage you to weigh all the facts and make an intelligent decision based on sound information. And I appreciate your time, and thank you.
My name is Kevin Gray. I'm a resident of St. Mary's and a business owner. And I'm very much in favor of the Armory being used as a community center for all the reasons that Bob outlined earlier. And for the record, I was for the Armory being used as City Hall back when that was a debate. That is a historical building and it deserves to stay in the community. I think this is a great opportunity to make it usable again for the citizens of St. Mary's. And it's looking at it from a business standpoint, it's a great deal. And it really is a deal that I think would be unwise for you to pass up at this point. So I'm in favor, and thank you very much.
Can't resist. I'm Bob Awerkamp, and the old one, not the younger one. Anyway, all these nice things that only cost a few tax dollars seem to kind of quickly add up. When I moved here 26 years ago and bought a house on the end of East Bertrand, the sales tax in this town was 3%, okay? And the property taxes on that pretty nice house, nicest house I'd ever lived in before, was less than $100 a year, not $100 a month. All right, but it's all these little petty things that you just keep adding on and adding on and adding on to the taxpayers. It's horrible. Has there ever in the history of the Chamber of Commerce been a government program that they opposed? Think about it. There never have every time they have ever been here in the history of St. Mary's to this commission, have they not come to put their hands in somebody else's pocket? Why should the struggling family be taxed when they're milking bread for a place for a corporate meeting or garage sale they had up there? Why should the old lady who lives on Palmer be, not referring to anybody in particular, but for 6 years I was on a government commission, a government body like this, and for a county, and but why should some elderly lady, I'm old now, be taxed on her home for a place to hold training seminaries or an auction house? Some of the other things that Bob said. How many of the people are here who want to dig your hands into the St. Mary's taxpayers' pockets, don't live in St. Mary's, and don't pay property taxes in this town? How many of these people who are asking to put their hands in your pocket, into the taxpayers' pocket, have come here before this commission, asked for tax abatements on their businesses? All right? If there's extra money that the city has, there's extra money that you have an obligation to lower the sales tax or the property tax, one or the other. You don't have an obligation or the right to invest it in a building that has not a proven worth or has no real government function. You're here for that purpose. Sell the building.
Thank you.
All right.
Hello, I'm Helen Pauley, and I'm a member of the St. Mary's community. I'm here to ask that, I'm hearing a lot of different bantering back and forth, you might say, about dollars. And we have one side that has presented concrete dollars, another side that has not presented concrete dollars. And I would ask for that reason that you table this until both sides have the same information and can give the same information, and we can compare apples to apples. There is one thing brought up about Bellevue, and Bellevue did have state grants to do what they did there in that community. One of the things not brought out in what we had presented this evening by the chamber was there's another opportunity for revenue for that particular building and putting in an interpretive center. Doesn't have to be big, but it's something that doesn't necessarily have to have anybody as a body be present. Rather, it's recordings and pictures and videos and things like that that don't require a person to be there. It can be done by volunteer help, and you get donations from people to be able to come in and see that. One thing for sure would be the Oregon Trail, for example. There's one on the other end of the Oregon Trail, but nothing on this end of the Oregon Trail. It would be a great place for it to be. I hate to bring this up. I really hate to say this, but I have to. We have a prime example in this community of what can be done with volunteer help and donations. Our city fathers elected not to purchase the campus grounds out east of town, and for their reasons. Obviously, a whole lot of work to be done, but my gosh, look at what's been done out there by volunteer labor and volunteer help and volunteer money from people that don't necessarily even probably reside in this community. I think it's a great example of what can be done when people pull together and really try to make something happen that's positive for a community. And then look what that brought to our community. It brought business, it brought people, additional people to pay sales tax, property tax, those kinds of things. So we have our own example right here, and there's probably many more if we look back through history to find the same things happening. So I do ask that you table it until the other side has the opportunity to put their numbers together and present them in the same fashion that the chamber has presented their numbers.
Thank you, Helen.
My name is Tim Sullivan. I've lived here a few years in St. Mary's, and I think that you ought to look at selling this building, look across the nation. Somebody might buy it so that the tax burden isn't on everybody here in St. Mary's. You can even check on eBay. Silos have been sold on eBay. For my opinion.
My name is Steve Bailey. I've lived here all my life. I would just like to remind the commission that they adopted a comprehensive plan, and a community center is in this plan. Thanks.
Yes, it is. I have the comprehensive plan. My name's Tina Schindler, and I'll tell you the pages that it's on.
page 2, page 3, page 5, 104, it makes reference to community officials need to consider establishments of a community center. Page 105. The comprehensive plan, I don't know if a lot of people even understand what it's for. John, you want to would you tell them who put this together for us?
The Planning Commission put it together in 1997, and it was approved by the City Commission, and it is currently undergoing review by the Planning Commission because it's supposed to be reviewed annually. May I see that copy, please?
Sure. Can you explain what comprehensive plan is for?
It is supposed to guide the development of the city.
So it picks problem points and positives for us as a community. And this has been done by a research team, and they compile data, and they give us the information of what our strengths and weaknesses are. And it repeats in there, our weakness as a community is not providing for our youth and our elderly, because we all have a huge amount of both in our community. And it states that for us to be more competitive with the other communities around us, that we need to offer this.
My name is Andrew Manel. I have a short thing. What's this 3 years? You mean in 3 years everything's going to be wonderful? Or is the taxpayer going to be paying for more than 3 years? About 20, 30 years?
My name is Doyle Pearl. I was going to speak for myself and my wife, but she gave me up here. We're homeowners and business owners here in the community. I'd just like to go on record that we are in favor. We're speaking for myself, our household, and our family business. As a business owner, I got excited about the opportunity to see the building renovated and used. And then when the committee came up with the proposal and what I believe are hard numbers for the remodeling and how it could leverage taxpayer dollars almost 2 to 1, 1.63 to 1. You know, as a business owner, if somebody gave me that proposal, I would come up with those funds. And if my budget didn't allow those funds, I would look at other ways of tightening up here and there for that period of time to ship those dollars to them. Because on the outcome of it, you're going to have a viable building. It's going to last many, many years, and it'll be good for the community. So I ask for your vote of approval. Thank you. My name is Kevin Jernigan, and I'm General Manager of the Farmers Union Co-op here in town. And if you want to sell the building back, we would probably be interested in buying it back. So, wish we had it back now. I do not live in St. Mary's. I actually work here. I've been here for 1.5 years, and I do want to say that St. Mary's is it's a great community, but it certainly seems like it lacks a lot. I've lived in a lot of small towns in the past. You know, when you drive down Main Street, you know, it's really sad to see a lot of the storefronts vacant. I do think that there's a lot of communities that have taken taxpayer dollars to add some amenities to a community that will improve the livelihood of the community. Also, I think it would improve the ability of St. Mary's to bring in some residents into this town, and also hopefully bring in some others that would certainly utilize the building. So I personally, I'm certainly in favor of this. Even though I am an outsider, I do spend a lot of money here in this town. So thank you.
I'm Alice Sides, and I've been around here a long time. And I've had several businesses in this town and paid a lot of tax, and I don't mind paying tax if it's going to better our community. And I think if you don't want to pay the tax, you can leave and go somewhere else.
My name is Bernard Fiedler, and I'll go on record as being in favor of keeping the building. I just can't imagine that my taxes are going to go down if you sell the building. I can't see them going up very much if you don't sell it, or if you don't sell it and revamp it. And if to go ahead and use the proposal that the chamber has come up with and do the improvements on the building, I would think it would be worth a lot more money down the road. In 3 to 5 years, we find out that maybe it was a bad mistake to keep it. It would be worth more money then, probably more than what the city is going to invest in it with taxes. You can always get rid of something. You can't get it back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Marcia Becker, and I am a business owner. I'm resident of St. Mary's, and I am in favor of the renovation of the Armory.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Thomas, and I also am a resident and a business owner here. And I'm in favor of renovating the Armory and keeping it for public use. My children, in prior years, had used it. There was basketball games, volleyball games. I used it for exercise classes, and I was sorry to see it close then. I think that it would be an asset to our community if we could reopen it and everybody could have an opportunity to use it again. Also, I have to disagree. Many people come up here and say that the city needs to only supply necessary items such as sewer, water, police. I have lived in many communities. I lived in Davie, Florida, a very upscale community where the homes were huge. We did not have city sidewalks. We did not have city water. We did not have city sewers. We did not have street lights. We had county police. The city provided none of those, but we did have a community center, and we had a rodeo for some reason. And we had ballparks. I mean, some things, your definition of what is essential and necessary is, different according to who you talk to, because you can live, and our community would suffer if everybody was on septic tanks and wells. Nobody enjoys that. And so those are, I think, amenities, and I think the city improves the community when it provides amenities. Our city would suffer if we didn't have a nice pool or a park. Those things are nice to have. You wouldn't pick the city to live in if you had a choice to live somewhere where you have those. Ross will just put in a nice pool because of that. And I think it would be beneficial to our city, and to me as a business owner also. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Mulligan. I do live here in St. Mary's. I appreciate the time and effort you guys put into these things. Believe selling school reports, I understand sitting through these issues. Just a real quick thought. I work with a lot of people that are not even from the state of Kansas, and it's amazing as they drive through St. Mary's, the impression that this town leaves on those people. Or if they're even if they're from Kansas. People, if I tell them I'm from St. Mary's, they just have this image and talk about all the neat things that are in the small town and that this town provides. I think we're losing that. I think if you drive downtown, you get the feeling that we're losing some of that. So I don't see how this cannot be a big win for the city and for the image of this town. Agree or disagree, it's always interesting to watch the public kind of rally around a couple of different sides. So I think that's a great thing that everybody's here to talk through that. And then lastly, I guess I'm probably just here really for my kids. I guess it's probably more of a selfish reason. I think this is a good opportunity for them to have somewhere to go in the community, to go to activities, to go do things that at the current time I'm not sure that I see where we provide. So I think that's a great opportunity for them. So that's really the reason I'm here. Thank you.
name is March Kincaid. Can you hear me? And I just, community center is for preschoolers to senior citizens. It benefits all. It's for the entire community. And I'm asking the commissioners to give us a good vote on this because I think it's quite an opportunity. And don't pass it up. Thank you.
Hang on, Lori, you sounded like you're taking a breath. Okay, ready? 3, 2. My name is Patrick Becaturian. Tonight you have the responsibility of deciding the future of the Armory as a community center under the current proposal from the Chamber of Commerce and its supporters. There is strong conviction on both sides of this issue, the obvious point being that this is not nurturing support of a community, but rather intensifying a great rift amongst the town's citizens. For the record, I do not stand here tonight to demean or to debunk the concept of a community center. Rather, I personally have no objection to a community center. The reason I stand here tonight is because I object to the funding proposal put forth by the proponents of the community center and the process that has been undertaken to bring us here tonight. I oppose the funding proposal because it requires the city of St. Marys, i.e. the taxpayers, to pay for the pet project of the Chamber of Commerce and its supporters. Although the dollar amounts have been minimized to show the least amount of impact, the effect of this proposed burden will be carried for years to come. The citizens of this town have had their taxes raised year after year in either the form of mill levies, property valuations, sales tax, or all of the above, not to mention the ever-increasing cost of services in town. There's your sewer rate increase. At some point, do we as a community not have the responsibility to look at the adverse effects of all these things on those that are on fixed incomes, on families? What are all these nickel and dime expenses doing to those that do not have pennies? I ask you, what are the consequences of this decision? Who amongst us will be affected adversely? Today we have $3 gasoline, $4 milk, $81 a barrel for oil. Ladies and gentlemen, where do you draw the line? When have you crossed over the boundaries of what government is supposed to do and what it should not do? Are you to concede to every emotionally driven request for a handout? What are the consequences? If you burden the citizens and encumber the city for years to come, you will have opened the proverbial Pandora's box for the next pet project and the one after that. It will become the poster child for the next great use of tax dollars. As for the process that has brought us here tonight, what is the message that we are sending the children of this town? When you don't want to finish what you started, just go to the government for a handout? I state that I'm in favor of a community center. Well, I am. To clarify it, I am in favor of a community first, a center second. In this age of instant gratification, I say no to tax dollars for a community center. I say let the community raise the funds for a community center and to operate it. I say let us build a community first by working together side by side to raise the necessary funds with sound and responsible assessment of what we are to accomplish. Webster's dictionary defines a community as a group of people with a common characteristic or interest living together in a large society. Nowhere in the dictionary does it define, the definition includes the word armory, handout, tax dollars, or government. I believe that people build a community, and doing so, the community grows, and in time they will find their center. In closing, I leave you with this quote from Thomas Jefferson. To compel a man to subsidize with his taxes the propagation of ideas which he disbelieves and abhors is sinful and tyrannical. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Another Kevin. I'm Kevin Warwick. I know so many Kevins in this town. I believe we can all agree that the Armory is a fine, solid structure with a proud history. I also believe that most of us St. Marys residents would not like to see this fine building deteriorate. The Chamber of Commerce has made a fine initial effort to plan for the continued use of the Armory. The city has seriously entertained the Chamber's proposal. I believe that most residents do not object to the remodeling. They only object to doing it with tax dollars. So, with many of us in favor of remodeling the Armory, how best to collaborate to get the job done efficiently? Needed a win-win solution to provide a clear command and control structure and eliminate the uncertainty about financing and about legal and contracting responsibilities. How to do this? By forming a local, nonprofit 501c3 group, call it Save the Armory or something similar. You can transfer control of the Armory to the group via sale or by lease or other type of agreement if you want to remain as overseer. With so many people interested in preserving the Armory, I'm certain that a fundraising effort could easily generate the needed funds, especially since donations made to the nonprofit group would be tax deductible. I, and I'm sure many others, would be happy to contribute and be part of this fundraising effort. The group would be responsible for the entire effort, from fundraising through contracting to remodeling, to the operation and ongoing maintenance of the community center. By allowing private enterprise to control the entire effort, we can eliminate the existing uncertainties and keep the city government focused on day-to-day city business instead of the entertainment business. As evidenced by the current atmosphere of uncertainty, shared control and funding would be an operational nightmare. A non-profit group can eliminate the problem of having two cooks in the kitchen while doing the job more efficiently and for less money.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Give them, Kevin, give them to Maurice.
Can I address you briefly as a private citizen? I'm Bob Cole. I live over by Wamego, and I've had occasion to have some conversations about this community center. I've had some thoughts I want to share with you. They're not legally profound or probably mathematically precise, but they're thoughts that I had about this. This building has always been a public building. It was either an investment or a gift on the part of the people of the United States. In the 1940s, as I understand it, during the time of war, when it was determined that there was a need for a National Guard armory here, and it has served for over 60 years as a National Guard armory, as a place to house and maintain equipment, and a place to train men for the common good. I don't have any idea whether people were marshaled here to go to World War II or Korea or Vietnam or Gulf War I, but certainly there must have been times when people were marshaled at this armory to help with local flood, fires, disasters of different sorts and so forth, as National Guardsmen do everywhere. Given the fact that it's been in place for over 60 years, I wonder whether it has not amortized itself, and probably many times over. I have absolutely no idea what the operational costs have been over that 60 plus years, or what revenues to the city have been over that 60 plus years. I asked myself, sort of speculatively this afternoon, I wonder if the doggone thing is prepaid, sort of, in the sense that it has served enough tangible and intangible use and value over that 60 plus years to make it virtually cost-free going forward, although I realize from a cash standpoint there has to be some investment in it. When you think about the investment, you think about a one-time investment of $150,000, let's say. The useful life of that investment probably will be about 20 years minimum. That works out to about $7,500 a year. Over the 20 years, divided by, let's say, 2,000 people, the way I calculated it, would be about $3.50 per person. If you convert that to real dollar values, it's less than that because you discount the dollars going forward through time by the amount of cost of living increase. And finally, another thought is that you have a revenue source available to you that about 80 or 90% of which is paid by people other than those living in St. Marys. That's the county sales tax, the vast majority of which comes out of Manhattan, and which is paid by students at K-State and by their parents and by faculty at K-State and by the people from Marshall and Morris and Geary and Riley County, as well as all of us. So I didn't come here to speak for or against it. I appreciate your time.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Thank you all. Thank you all for coming in tonight, even those that didn't speak. We really do appreciate it. At this time, what I'd like to do, I have one quick thing to say, and then I'm going to give each commissioner an opportunity to speak. The first thing I'd like to say is, no matter what the outcome here tonight, or if it's tabled and brought up in the future, what I've noticed is the last thing this city needs or this community needs is more divide. And I've seen a lot of it over the years. I've seen it in its what I call bad times, ugly times, but I've seen it get better. I've seen it get a lot better. And I just want to stress that no matter what the outcome is, that we don't let this divide us further, because it doesn't benefit anyone. So at this time, if the commissioners have anything to say, I'll let them do that. Dennis, you want to start? Or?
Again?
Yes.
I want to try not to reiterate a lot of things that a lot of people have already said. I've been here a long time. My family's been here 4 generations. And I'm probably more passionate about this than a lot of people because I have been here a long time. One of the fellows that just talked mentioned about the National Guard Armory, how many wars that it had sent people to, and I'm not going to try to overstate Jordan Perry because he's the historian as far as the Army is concerned, but I know of 4. And World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and Iraq, I'm sorry. I was one of those people, which doesn't make it any better, but the building is significant to me because I grew up with it. It's always been there. I am determined that if I can help it, I don't want to see it used for anything else or given away for any other type of use. We've talked extensively about dollars here, and I don't see that is that big a hurdle. And we keep referring to them as a chamber, and I don't want to refer to them as a chamber because they're a group of people who got together with nothing else to gain but to give something back to the community. Somebody else mentioned a while ago, some of our forefathers had the foresight to build a swimming pool over here back in the 20s or 30s whenever it was built. I used that as a kid. The park has always been here in my lifetime. Certainly would never want to see that go away. To me, the Armory fits right into that category. I've also stated many times that I feel it is the city's building and it's our obligation to bring it up to ADA standards, which means it needs a ramp and it needs the restroom repaired. I don't think we can deny that responsibility for whatever it's ever used for. And we keep forgetting that the Armory has always been a community center forever. We just quit using it because of the ADA thing and partly because of the air conditioner. We're still using the basement. Nobody's mentioned that tonight, but we use that building every single day. There's people in and out of there. Every time you go by there, somebody's coming out there with a different piece of equipment or working on something down there. And I don't think we can overlook that. And I agree wholeheartedly with the people that have mentioned the money that's already been raised. And it was mentioned that
the chamber is always asking and reaching into the city's pocket. Well, it appears to me like that some folks that are tied to the chamber are trying to give some back and are doing a darn good job, in my estimation. I also heard somebody mention that we could get maybe $12,000 a year rent from that, and I don't think that could even be considered. That's not an amount of money for a building like that would even come close in my mind. With that, I would conclude by saying that if we chose not to fix the Armory up, we wouldn't be choosing not to have a community center. We'd be choosing to close one that's been there for 7 decades for all of us to use. Thank you.
Mr. Delora?
Mr. Mayor, I had rather extensive comments to make, but I'm not at this point, I don't think, ready up to making. There are a few points I would like to make. One is that this entire debate is, we've seen opposing subjective beliefs on topics because the topics themselves are open for debate. I want to emphasize that I do not question the motives, integrity, or sincerity of anyone who has contributed to this discussion. It's been held that the project will be an economic development boom. My reading have indicated to me that the #1 economic development incentive is low taxes, followed by solid infrastructure and a competent workforce. Provide the incentive and base rent entrepreneurs, they'll build the economy. Amenities are way down the list. It was mentioned that the comprehensive plan calls for a community center. I believe in my reading of it that it discusses it, but when it gets to the recommendation section, the community center is not included in the comprehensive plan. The August 21st presentation of the chamber said that no matter what time, where we find ourselves in the life of the city, there'll always be infrastructure needs. That's true, but with a new water tank, when that's completed, there's not going to be a hiatus in the expenditures for infrastructure projects. To provide the basis for the city's combined viability and economic development, we have a whole list of projects that need prioritizing and tax dollars. We have to complete the multi-year electrical distribution system project upgrade. We have to restore adequate fire flow to hydrants in 2 areas of town. We need an installation of a large water line collecting the well fields to the new tank and booster station to increase system efficiency and effectiveness, and to eliminate a single point of failure node represented by having only one line feeding the north part of the system. We have to reconstruct city streets, including the complete renovation of 2nd Street. We have a single point of failure node in the sewer system work, the north-south line under the tracks, and there's others I have on my list. There are 2 newly emerging, potentially large infrastructure projects facing the city. EPA is working on a drinking water standard that could force us to install a water treatment plant. When the Citizens Advisory Committee looked at that type of project in 1999, the cost then was estimated in excess of $1 million. These new EPA rules are coming into effect in 2009, but we do not yet know the scope of what will be required. Westar has thrown a new wrinkle into the negotiations regarding the shift over to KPP. It may become necessary and prudent for the city to expand the substation. These are essential projects to which priorities have to be assigned and funded as tax dollars are available within the political process. For those who have been following City Commission discussions, you also know that I am an advocate of the city having a reserve fund. The county-wide sales tax provided the city the ability to have such fund. I am not ready to dissipate the dollars in that fund for what I consider a non-essential service. As the Chamber pointed out during the discussions, the City Commission is in office to make decisions. Lawrence Reed's fifth principle of sound public policy is, quote, "Nobody spends somebody else's money as carefully as he spends his own." I've been trying to keep this principle in mind. I have not been convinced that I'd spend my money on the project. I have not been convinced that the project is a proper use of government power. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank to all the citizens of all viewpoints who have participated in this discussion. I ask that any motion that is ultimately made, other than a simple, straightforward one, be placed in writing before it is voted on, so we'll have it in front of us.
I can't help but think my first thought that comes to mind actually has nothing to do with this. How incredible that we can have an opportunity that every single person can speak on a subject. I just had that thought. It's just, thank God we live where we live. Yeah, I just overwhelmingly had that thought. I've been discussing with people and calling my children who have moved away and family, friends, and different people, and just trying to, like every commissioner, giving every thought to this so that I can make an appropriate decision. A young man told me recently that he remembered his grandfather telling him how the city of St. Mary's city leaders lobbied to get the National Guard Army in St. Mary's way back when as a plan to assist in their shelter, safety, and emergencies. That reminded me, as Dennis did, the foresight that all past city commissioners have done over the years to add or cooperate to add things like a ballpark, a long-term care facility, our health facility, EMS, the library, the pool. I think this St. Mary's City Commission, I think they all have, I'm only obviously acquainted with this one, has become very practical. Our basic infrastructure has been and is in the process of being upgraded. We are working on pieces. John's got a list of, obviously there's always things to fix, just like on our own houses. Every project we've had, we've been accused of, and by our own admission, of beat it to death sometimes. But every decision, we got the best financial decision with the least expense that we could, and we planned for the payment of that expense. One of the things that has been instituted, our 5-year plan. All of our budgets that we've done the last couple of years, every one of our supervisors has planned out what they need, a truck, a hoe, a lawnmower. We've got it in the budget, so we're looking ahead all the time, and we're looking at extra money for different things, and keeping a little back for when you need it. I think every one of these decisions was made with a gut feeling, I'm sure, and with a decision that it was time to do something for the community. Different people have mentioned the economic impact. When you do something for a community that improves the community, it can't have a negative effect. It will either bring people in, people will stay in. Logical, if you spend money, people spend money here, we're going to make money out of it. I think the time is right for a community center, because a community center is one building every single person in this town can use. I also think the time is right because we have people who are coming together to work on this project. We have people committing their time and their money, and or their money, to do this. We have business owners who are putting together advertising perspectives. There's a wonderful brochure that I saw in town the other day. I think all of us came to St. Mary's, or ended up in St. Mary's, for the same reason. It's a place we wanted to live and raise our families. All of these things are positive images of St. Mary's. I have a list of leadership quotes I keep on my fridge, and I saw one that I thought of yesterday when I was working on this that said, "Lead, follow, or get out of the way." And I think if we don't take charge of this opportunity, we're going to roll over and somebody else is going to get our money and our business. all I have for right now. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank all of you for your comments. Every one of them struck me as very powerful, very convincing. But one of the last ones, I think, solved the problem that I've been wrestling with for months on this. I've even lost sleep, like I'm sure some of my fellow commissioners have done similar things, trying to resolve difference of opinions in our own inner structure there. Some of the things that were said, I kind of like what Dennis says, yeah, it's our building, so perhaps we have some obligation to make it ADA compliant. We could have used it tonight if it had been that much. But my concern was that while I'm thoroughly behind, as I think many of us are, a community center as, you know, as a facility, the tax part of it bothered me seriously. And one of the things that I kept asking the chamber when they'd come make a presentation, please get this information out to the rest of the community. And I'm afraid too little was done too late. So as a consequence, we have a real polarization of attitudes here. And frankly, I think if we voted to commit the kind of money that was asked for right now, tonight, we would have not pulled this community together. We would have split it even further, as you can see. So what the solution I was come up with here, that I thought was a great way of solving a lot of the concerns that I had that were still hanging loose, was Mr. Werrick's of developing an independent charitable organization that can raise the money, run the show, do the contracting, and relieve the city of all these little things that are bothering a lot of people that I get phone calls on, as well as sitting up here knowing their problem. I would like to see that. And one of the reasons I have a lot of hope for that, besides the obvious things that relieve us of these what if, given the vague connections and responsibilities, I don't think half the people in this town have been asked for money. I, for one, would be willing to make a lot of money, but be willing to make a personal contribution to this community center. And so I think there's a lot of money to be raised yet. And so what I would like to see, my personal opinion, is see us go after Mr. Werrick's suggestion of a 501k charitable organization, tax deductible, take the money, work with the chamber of what they've got so far, and continue looking for money. Given that situation, I think instead of having a division in this town over this issue, we'll bring people together, might not even be the same people, bring people together that want it to the point of writing you a check. Then you've got a community, as one person said there, I don't know whether it's Pat or what, said we need to have a community first and a center second. And I think by having this charitable organization that would be totally responsible for the community center, we would develop this community. And their goal would be to develop a community center. So that's my attitude on the thing. And if they do it, it works well, things look good, and they still need some money, then I could see us being asked perhaps to take care of the ADA part of this public building. But that's my attitude. I don't think that, I'm certainly not in any position to vote tonight and say, give them the money. My opinion is what I've just stated. Thank you all for coming and stating your opinion.
I'll go last. About a year ago, the chamber came before us and asked that they be allowed to explore other possible uses for the armory. We gave them their time to come up with a plan, and they did so. They want to use the armory as a community center, but they also want to use tax dollars to fund a portion of the renovation and possibly use future tax dollars to operate it. There's been talk of using money from the countywide sales tax fund to pay for the city's portion, but I feel there are better ways to use the sales tax revenue. The best thing that I think we could do with the countywide sales tax revenue is to continue to give property owners a break by lowering their taxes. Property owners are always the ones that politicians from the state, the county, the city, and you even heard it here tonight, the school boards look to pay the bill when they raise taxes just so they can fund projects like this one. To me, this does not come down to whether or not the city needs a community center, but whether or not it is proper for city government to fund and maintain a community center. And I say no. The taxpayers of St. Mary's already pay their fair share, and they should not be burdened with paying for something that is not proper for their elected officials to provide. I've heard a lot of people say how great it would be to have a community center and how it would be such a benefit to the downtown area and the local economy. I happen to agree with that. But I would encourage the Chamber of Commerce to either, one, lease the building from the city, I know you get it cheap. Or two, find a company that wants to come in and run a community center, but please do not expect the taxpaying citizens of this community to pay for it. I'm not against a community center. I never have been. But I don't want people, the citizens of this community and the taxpayers of this community to be burdened with footing the bill. It is not proper for this body of elected officials to do that. Thank you. So now we must move on with where we go from here.
Dennis has mentioned that different people on the commission have mentioned paying for, that it's our responsibility to pay for the ADA requirements, which, as I recall, is about $60-some thousand to get the bathroom and the stairway done. Would it be appropriate to take $60-some thousand out of our countywide sales tax to begin that piece of it and allow the chamber then to pursue? Obviously, there's a lot of money out there, chamber. You heard, everybody's ready to willing and give volunteer money. So, but would it be appropriate to use the sales tax money to take care of the ADA accessible piece?
I'd be prepared to make such a motion.
And I did have, I had Maurice fix that little blue sheet so we could see where we are in the sales tax this year.
Well, Nancy, I have said in the past that I was in favor of bringing it into ADA compliance, but I'm in favor of that if we are going to keep it and use it. If we're going to look at possibly another avenue, i.e. leasing the building, then I would consider that a leasehold improvement, and I would leave that to the business or organization that would lease it. That's why I look at the ADA.
And if I'm not mistaken, the consensus of the chamber about 2 months ago was not to consider selling the building. So to me, it would be an improvement that would always be with the building.
I didn't say sell, I said lease. We were to lease it. I don't think we've discussed enough to make a decision on whether or not to sell it. There hasn't been enough discussion on that point.
My opinion on the ADA, as I said, I don't have a problem given that we have this group that we're talking about, the 501k, and they take off and find out there's enough community support without having to go after the taxes to get well into this thing, including all the little legal responsibilities, contract responsibilities, what if situations. If that all goes smoothly and we have a big group that includes most of these people here, then I could see them come back to us and say, well, we've drained everybody in town that's willing to write a check, and we've had snow cone sales and cake sales and all that, and we still need help with the ADA. I could see them saying, okay, we'll spend some of the ADA. But that's only after the community has got together and showed what kind of support they have. And I was hoping we would have had that before now, but we just haven't gotten the word out. So I think we need to do that at this stage of the game before we actually commit any city money. But I am saying that should we have a group that takes off with private money doing this, then I could see us considering seriously paying for the ADA, because we obviously would then have a building that's going to be used. But I'm not interested in putting any money in that until I see the community, mostly as a whole, supporting this with private money. If they can't, then it's going to fall through, and I don't feel that we can take it from them because they're not willing to give it. So I'm not willing to commit any money until we get together as a community and take off with what we can do with private. And like I said, I think we got a lot of private money there. A lot of people haven't even been asked, as I talk to them, that are for this. So I'd like to pursue that avenue, and if that's successful, great.
I guess I see if there's a possibility of us doing the ADA in a few months, why not do it now?
Exactly. It's a chicken and egg thing. If we're non-committal, then the folks that are trying to amass a little bit of money are gonna have a terrible problem trying to raise any more money. If I don't know if the city's even interested in a community center, I'm certainly not willing to step up and give any money to it. I think we owe it to the people that have started this thing and the folks that have been dedicated to it to at least make a commitment to the thing. And I thought we were there a couple months ago, but obviously I was mistaken. And I still stand by the fact that we need to make it ADA accessible. That part, you can't take it away from the building once it's there, whatever we do with it. We need to make some type of a commitment and either move forward or get off of it.
Well, Dennis, again, like I said, ADA is something we need to do, but when you say we owe the people that work so hard, and they have, I know that, but what about the people whose money we're fixing to take? I think we owe them the chance to make private donations. And then, they're part of it then. They bought into it as opposed to we're going to take your money and we're going to develop a community center and you're going to eventually enjoy it. Think how much a stronger community we would have if we asked people and they bought into it with their own money. I just think it'd be something we would all appreciate. We wouldn't have to look at each other and say, well, you know, you took my money or you didn't contribute. I really think that the way to go, talking about the chicken and egg, I think we need to get the community, as one of them said a while ago, and then go after the center once we've built the community based on this. Like I said, I think the 501k is an excellent way to go about this. Then it's an organization we all contribute to for that one issue. And the chamber gets to unload their responsibilities, turn it over, and let this other outfit take off with it. I really think that's the way to go. And after that's a success, I'm willing to commit to the ADA if it's still necessary.
I'm still not convinced it's totally a money issue. I don't know that it is.
I don't follow you.
Well, I guess I didn't get the feeling here when Bob was talking earlier. Bob, right? I'm sorry, Mr. River. He asked for a show of hands once how many people were for a community center if it didn't cost a dime. I only saw about a dozen hands come up. So I'm still not convinced that the money is the holdback. I guess that's where I'm coming from. And I think there needs to be some type of commitment on our part before this thing is going to move anywhere.
And I guess I agree because it's our building. I mean, it is the city of St. Marys building. I think if we can at least put a step out front, a ramp, and even if we only put in $62,000, which we have the money for now, and they raise every bit of the rest of it, then we're putting in, what, half of whatever percent Mr. Riddler presented. And the community, there's still plenty of money to be raised from the community out there. Heck, if they raise more, they can pay us back or something. But I just feel it's our building. I think it's remiss of us as owners of a city building to not do appropriate care for it and make some plan. And I agree with Dennis that it's hard to make a commitment when your city leaders can't make a commitment. And I think making a commitment to the future of this city is important, an important step we need to take right now.
I still think that what is more important than the money, or the ADA right now, is to try to resolve some of the division in this town, and it's not going to be done by taking money from people who've spoken all night long that they don't want their money taken. We're not going to have a community center that's a community center. It's going to be a building that's occupied or used by half the people, and the other half are going to resent it. And so I'm saying let's get the community together on this issue, and we've got something a lot better than a building that's available. We've got people that are working together on something and contributing money because they want to, because they think it, as most of them said, they like that in a community center. They don't want their money taken from them for it. And while I don't have a problem with taking some of their money for the ADA, let's see if they really want a building, if they want a community in an area they can get together in. Given that, then hey, okay, they've already made the commitment. I'll tell you what, if they do that for a year, and then we're going to have a meeting to decide about the ADA, nobody will be here.
Well, we've been talking about this for a year. I mean, not everybody can be oblivious for the last year that we've been talking about the armory.
You'd be surprised. The arguments that I've heard that were totally unrealistic had nothing to do with the discussions going on here. Which is why I beg for this this flyer months ago. I said, please get something like this out among the people, and they finally did it, but I understand even today, a lot of people hadn't gotten it. A few of them got it from emails. So we've got to do a better job, and I think if we'd given the people something like this a year ago, the money would already be there by now. So again, I think having a community is more important than having a building. I think if we have the community come together on this with private money, the building will happen. And it'll happen because people want it, not because it was taken from them. So again, I just keep saying, I think Kevin's idea, and that would solve a lot of my problems that I've been wrestling with, this 501k, and it unloads you guys from having to keep working with this thing. You've done all the work, turn over an outfit that can go ahead and continue it. To me, that's the solution.
What if some of the people who spoke up tonight really just wanted to say something and don't want to give any cash? And where are we? I mean, like people,
Well,
they do pledges, I mean, they pledge, they say they're gonna give dollars, but nobody ever really pays them anything.
They came before us, and what's the difference of saying that, or they came before us and say they have how much pledged? 80,000. What if they don't pay it? Who pays it then? The taxpayers. I don't think it's a fair argument, Nancy. I think you have to take people at their word if they say they're gonna pledge money. I believe that people here are good people and they will pledge money.
Mr. Cordell, as I read your blue sheet, 2007 revised. It shows we have a budgeted reserve of 50,000 and we're going to have an ending balance of 242,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
So in effect, we have a budgeted reserve of 300,000, give or take a few dollars.
Approximate. The original 2007 had a $300,000 budgeted reserve line item in there.
Which was my goal. I think what Mr. Tabler has been expounding on is very similar to something I proposed months ago. It didn't go very far, but I think it probably got a little bit of new life this evening. If not the chamber, then a 501c3 to do it. When you talk about ADA, there's ADA and there's ADA, and you very much have to know what your final goal is before you decide how much you're going to spend on ADA, because you can do a little or you can do a lot. You can get ADA compliance with a lift. And you don't need the kind of bathroom setup that has been proposed if you're not headed in that direction. So I don't think we can blindly say we're going to spend so much money on ADA if we're not headed in a given direction. Set of plans, a total business plan for this entire project.
I think that's also part of the commitment to do it that's involved, because if it's committed as a community center, then you have the need for access bathrooms and ramps and things like that. I guess that's the part I struggle with, is if we commit nothing as a city, I'm not sure what that tells the chamber and the business owners in the city. I guess I struggle with.
I won't commit nothing. Personally, I'll commit a building leased to you very cheap. A very good building. Somebody said if the roof blew off, that building wouldn't go anywhere. I don't think it would. That's what I would commit. They have the city's support. I just don't think we should use the taxpayers' dollars to fund it.
Well, if there's something you're saying there, what does it tell people, you know, when we won't commit? What does it tell people when we don't trust that they want it enough that we're going to let them raise the money? It tells me that we know you don't want it, but we're going to take the money. I'd rather trust them. I know, that's what it tells me. I would rather trust them. If they want it, they'll raise them, build it, and they'll come, all right? Give them a chance to contribute, and the ones that want it will do that. If they don't quite make it, okay, I've already committed to, after we see what they can do, of paying for the ADA. And if that has to go in writing or something, you know, where we say they hit a certain goal, then the ADA would kick in, I'm willing to do that. So as John said, that whatever we vote on needs to be in writing, and we've had a week to look it over. But I don't mind doing that to show the commitment. But I still say, in order to have a community, the community needs to do this first. And then we find out what kind of interest we have in it. And I'm thinking, I bet if we took a vote right now, most of the people that spoke against their tax money would say they're willing to contribute something personally to it.
Well, I would hope so. I would hope that's what we've got out of this, is that all those people will contribute tax dollars, so.
I just ask that you come to the podium if you wish to speak.
If you don't steal my tax dollars, then we will, the Abrahams will donate $5,000.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham.
So there's our first donation.
Okay, well, I think we need to move forward in some direction. If there are any motions that want to be made, I ask that they be made at this time.
All right, I move that we start a 501c3.
That we
Somebody,
No,
somebody,
well,
whoever the
we can't
appropriate-
mandate that,
Whoever
unfortunately.
starts that.
I'd pick out the individuals if we could, but we
I
can't
think
mandate
Kevin
that.
volunteered.
Got one more, in the bath laboratories.
All right, there we go. So I move that we do what we have to do to pursue that, and leave that, let the commissioners decide and vote on that.
Well, I understand your feeling, Paul. I don't think that's a motion, though. I mean, we can encourage it, but we can't mandate it.
I would move that we give the community center a 10-year commitment, move forward with the community center. I'll leave that part of that, and then I'll make another motion.
A second.
I'm not quite sure.
No,
I'd give them a 10-year what? Flesh that
My
out.
motion was that we move forward with the community center with a 10-year commitment from today to provide the space for the community center.
Just
the building.
The building.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could.
No funds. You're not talking money.
Not at this time.
Move forward in, excuse me, it hasn't been seconded, so it's not ready.
I
for
Yes,
second.
it has been,
I
it has been seconded. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I don't understand, if you want to commit to what kind of plan are you committing, want to commit?
I think we need to commit to these folks that want to move forward. If we're committed to a community center, like everybody, I was told, everybody here tonight wants a community center, then I think we have to commit something. The building is what we have to commit, obviously. And they have to have some type of commitment from us before they can collect a dime from anybody. I'm not going to give any money unless I know there's going to be something moving forward.
I don't think with your motion that anybody would want to give a dime, because we really haven't said what we're committing to other than a community center. We don't know what kind of community center.
I'm committing the building for a community center.
For use as a
That's
community.
fine.
Okay, you're going to take it off the market for 10 years.
Exactly.
Okay. So let me.
Restate. Thank you.
Let's see if I got this, Dennis. You correct me if I'm wrong. We have a motion to take the Armory building off the market for a period of 10 years and only to be used as a community center, if anything.
Correct.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2. Okay. So,
Can I make another one?
you make it any you want, Dennis. That's why you got elected.
I would move that we commit $65,000 from the 2007-2008 budget and the countywide sales tax for the purpose of the AD ramp in the bathrooms.
A second.
We have a motion and any discussion. We have a motion and a second to commit $62,000.
60, what did you say, 65 or
65.
I'm sorry, $65,000 for ADA improvements to include a ramp and bathrooms. Any discussion?
And if it would be committing, it doesn't mean that we would have to give it to them. Like Paul said, we could just hold that till they come back, couldn't we? I mean, the fact that we've committed to this, and we're gonna write them a check tomorrow.
All right, you're asking if he's making a motion to put $65,000 towards ADA improvements. That has nothing to do with this presentation. This is something the city can do itself with its own money, so, you know, so.
Any other discussion?
Well, in discussion, I don't see a need to do that yet.
I agree. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion fails.
I move we put $62,000 in the capital project fund for possible ADA concerns, should it be needed.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to put $62,000 into a capital improvement fund for ADA improvements, I'm assuming to the armory.
Oh, sorry, yes, to the armory.
You're not going to cover my house?
No, no.
To the armory,
Not listening to the chair.
if needed.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Mr. City Manager, do we have a separate line item for that? Do we have to create one?
You can create one, it would be in the...
It would have to be created?
Yes.
Something that you can do with staff?
It's like we did with
Maintenance shed.
maintenance shed at the golf course, and it's just a bookkeeping entry.
Would this vote be authority for that to happen?
What was the motion?
To put $62,000 in a renovator
Okay,
capital
it would,
fund for,
it would basically earmark the money, but before anything was spent, we'd, seek approval.
We require separate approval.
You want a legal opinion on that before you answer that?
I guess my thought is, if it helps you understand this, my thought is that Paul, we talked about if they needed that money, that I think it would be prudent of us to put the money there if they should ask for it.
You'd basically be earmarking it, it could be used for anything in the future if it didn't work. But his question about does it give authority to spend it, we'll put that in the motion. That it would require approval of the city commission and spend, because I don't know the finer points of that.
Before the final decision will be made.
Before any money is expended for ADA improvements with that money, it'd be approved. Yeah, because I don't know how else to handle that.
Got that, Dory, because I couldn't say it.
Yeah.
Because there still very much would have to be
Right.
done.
And that's why I just think it's prudent to put it there should they come back. And that way we've done our part. And
Mr.
committed to what
Cordell,
we
you
said.
said that ultimately, if it doesn't get spent there, it can still be spent on anything else the city wanted to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, you're earmarking the money, but if it doesn't get done, you just make a motion to put it back to whoever.
Okay. You want to restate the motion? I don't know if I got it when
Well,
I...
let me
want
ask,
things in writing.
let me ask you one thing. Would it be better to put it into a capital project fund? That way we could use it for renovation, or would it be better to separate it for this? Or restate mine?
The auditors recommended if this project went forward, and we would accept their donations into a capital projects fund, and that's where we put our money, and we'd manage it all. So you could do it that way.
Is there a deadline on when that would have to be done? I mean, does it need to be done before the end of this year or anything?
It would depend when you wanted to spend it. We would have to amend the budget to show that as a transfer from the county sales tax fund to that capital projects fund. But the only reason the capital projects fund came up is if we was going to accept donations. If the sole purpose is to do the ADA improvements ourselves, then you just leave it where it's at and spend it out of the county sales tax fund like we did for the tornado sirens in the roof. You just make a motion to designate $62,500 for ADA repairs to the upgrades to the armory. And there won't be any need for a budget transfer.
Just leave it there.
Yeah, because when you did the 2007 budget, there's a $300,000 budget reserve. Doesn't have to be spent, but it's available to spend. You have the money, you'll have the budget authority. we've been chipping away at that with those other projects, so.
So do we need a motion that we earmark it for that, or
You
as
can
long
make,
as
you
it's
can
in
make,
there?
you can make the motion or no motion, because you can spend it, you know, at any time.
If you feel confident that the money will be there, I don't plan on
Let's see,
spending
we got 3 months
We got
left this
3
year.
months.
That's what Maurice.
If you were going, yes.
That's right.
If you were going forward with the project, I'd recommend you transfer it into that capital projects fund, because that money would be tracked separately. You know, but if you're just looking to have the city do ADA improvements, spend it out of the county sales tax fund.
We wouldn't need a separate line item.
And we have the budget authority and the cash to do.
Spend it out of it.
Yes.
I guess I withdraw my motion. Got the money for it.
Any other motions or discussions on this topic?
Commissioner Lloyd, did we leave anything out? You're always looking for details. Is there
Not
any loose
tonight,
pieces
I'm
here that
sorry.
we need resolved? Okay.
I would say that one of my off and on evening prayers is that the National Guard calls up and says they want it back.
I have a question about your 10-year commitment that you just made. Is that giving this 501c3 organization that hasn't been founded yet, is that giving them 10 years to be founded and come up with the money and get it running? Or what is that 10-year commitment to?
To use the armory as nothing other than a community center.
So it could sit vacant for the next
Yes.
10 years if the
Yes.
money's there?
Yes.
I was wondering if you could maybe give them 3 years or something like that, come fit, so that it doesn't sit vacant for 10 years if the community doesn't donate enough to do this.
Sure, I talked about trust a little bit ago. I trust that they're not going to not do something.
Okay, so you do think that they can raise that money through private donations?
That's what everybody said.
We have $4,000 donation a month ago.
Gerard told
And
me
laboratories.
to trust everybody.
But what if it doesn't? Is that just going to stay empty for 10 years?
change it back
Can you
again?
change
This is
it?
easy.
Can you change it back?
I can't begin to assume what future commissions will
That's
do.
right.
But they should have the power
However,
to do that.
however, with that being said, I doubt that 5, 6 years down the road, when maybe none of us will be here, I know I won't be here, I doubt if the building is set empty for that long that the city commission will continue to let it do so.
I was just wondering if it locked the city in, but I guess they can always go later to change that.
We could, any commission can change
Okay.
what we do here tonight at any meeting.
It's not actually sitting empty anyway, we're using the basement. That's true. Every day.
That was the point I was just going to make. You talk about educating the public. I think everyone here needs to make sure you know that the building is not empty. The building houses the street department, which if we put anything in there that requires that street department to move in any way, shape, or form, we have to then create a building for the street department, which would be stealing taxpayer dollars, to quote Mr. Arquette there. So I think it's just important not to take a side on
I'm
that. But
talking about the empty top level, obviously.
well, you know, they kind of tie together. A lot of businesses aren't going to want to share a building necessarily with the city, tell them what to do. So it does complicate a lease, I would think. So I wanted to just keep that in your mind while we're talking about what's going on with the building. And it does get currently used by the city.
Well, I don't think, well, past meeting, the lease option was voted down. So we're not even looking at that. It may come up again, but we're I believe a 3-2 vote.
Excuse me, that was a consensus, was it not?
Was it a consensus?
It really wasn't voted. It was-
Okay, I stand corrected. A verbal consensus. Thank you.
Two of us didn't vote on that. I don't think you ever commented how you felt, and John abstained, I believe, so it was a 3-0.
No, I was in
You
favor.
voted
I wanted
against
to,
it on it.
I'm sorry, it wasn't a vote. It was a consensus that we would not lease the building.